Okay, levers. This is where all the work we've done along the whole way declares itself, the offer. So whenever you think about offer, always go, wait a minute, levers, levers. Now, if you're thinking about offer, it might be too late. So this is where levers gets introduced super early into the process, earlier than you probably ever thought about in regards to the construct of an offer. So let's jump in. One of the things I've always told my team is never assume what's important to you is important to the individual going through the process. It's really important to understand that. I've had search consultants, headhunters, part of my team over the years say, oh my gosh, it's an increase of 25% on their salary. And then when the offer comes out, the offer gets rejected, and it had less to do with salary than some other component that was important to the individual. Yet oftentimes search function, headhunters, HR over-indexes towards a salary. Don't get me wrong, money's important, solves most of the problems in the world, but in this case, there might be something else. So, with the world of work changing as much of it is right now, it's really important that you take some very deep consideration on the construct of your offers. Because way too often, organizations have played a jack-in-the-box offer. People go through the entire process, and they get to their screen, the email comes in from the company. In the old days, you open up an envelope. I'm really going back on my first offer. And click, and you had no idea, for the most part, what the offer was going to be. It gets sprung on you like a jack-in-the-box offer. Not the way to play it, and certainly not the way to negotiate, because once that offer's up, almost always in the person's mind, it's either, oh my gosh, thank goodness this offer came in, I take it, but for the most part, negotiations are required. And if they're underwhelmed with the offer, you're already blemishing your opportunity to have a very good-spirited negotiation. So, we introduced a concept called levers. And what that means is, during any hiring process, there's a large number, and I mean large, number of components potentially to look at. And we can go across them here. These are my recommendations. So salary, bonus, LTIs, sign-ons, work from anywhere, PTO, relocation packages, early merit reviews. These constitute most of the major moves to think about when you're going through the process. And so I recommend, usually after the first interview, that the company tell the individual, and you'll see I use the word individual, not candidate, tell the individual, Sally, there's a number of components that we want to discuss with you during the process. And we like to let you know that these are levers that can be pulled anywhere from a level 10, which is max, all the way down to a level 1. And we want you to help define those levers to us. I'm going to tell you right up front, I can't pull 10s across the board. And I'll tell you there might even be some limits on mine for internal parity issues, what have you. But introducing this concept of levers along the way is super important, and it sends a message to the individual that you're working with. And on the other side, if you're the individual, the candidate, you should let the company know, and at first you're going to catch them off guard. You're going to introduce and say, Mr. Hiring Manager, Mr. Company, there's a number of things I'm thinking about as we move through this process, and I'm super interested in your company. And these are the things that I'm thinking about, and I'd love to be able to discuss freely through the process, and let's pull those levers as we go along so we can avoid having this conversation at the finish line. And if you're the company, let me share this with you as a headhunter who's closed more than 8,000 deals. If you introduce levers early to the individual, and nearly every individual these days has got 2 to 3 other opportunities they're thinking about, and I can pretty much guarantee you, at least at this moment in time, that those organizations aren't deploying the lever strategy, you're going to have an enormous competitive advantage over the other companies that are likely deploying out a jack-in-the-box offer. So if you're the individual, early and often have these conversations about the offer and using levers. And again, company or individual, introduce it early. It's a two-way experience, and if you're not playing it as a two-way experience in today's job market, and you're only putting out the demands, or you're trying to shield it until it's too late, you're going to probably blow it. Also, you need to do this in writing. If you're the individual having the lever conversation, I strongly recommend that you document the conversation on an email. It's really important because the person you're discussing this with probably has to push this laterally and vertically up if you're asking for 7, 8, 9 areas on that lever sort of continuum. Push it to HR, push it to the hiring manager, push it to the hiring manager's superior, supervisor. So you want these documented so it can get pushed back and forth. In the beginning, if you're the hiring manager, it's going to seem clumsy and awkward because you're talking about a lot of subjects. But if you're going to put the time into telephone interviews, Zoom calls, face-to-faces, time off, bringing your team together, interview this person, and you think this is clumsy, how clumsy is it when you have an offer that's rejected and you got to start the machine all over again? So putting this work in early and often is important. Now, the individual. As you're putting the levers in place, so you're the candidate, the individual, who introduces this concept to the company because the company is probably not using it. Or let's say you're the company who finally does introduce it to the individual. If you're the individual, you need to make and provide an evidence-based discussion around why you're asking for more PTO or why you're asking for a sign-on. Not just that you want it, but it's something that is going to make your personal life, which allows you then to focus more on your professional life, better, easier, or facilitate the peace of mind that you don't have to worry about that in your personal life, which then you can deploy your professional life in a more acute, stronger way. So it's really important that we just closed the deal today. Let me give you an example. Individual asked for another $5,000 on his salary. The offer was $105. He asked for $110. And I asked him, I won't tell you his name. I asked him, why $110? He said, Joe, when I did the homework, I'm going to be commuting now. I've got to catch a train and a bus. And I didn't realize it was an extra $5,000. He said, when I run the numbers, it's going to cost me post-tax another $5,000. I said, great, thank you. I went back to the client. Originally, the client said they topped out at $105. When I went back and explained it was $110, he wants to take the job. It took them about 1 minute to say, okay, I can go to $110. I really want this individual. Because we came back with evidence as to why, rather than just a whim from $105 to $110. It's really important that you understand as we come out of this that retention is designed in the hiring process. Retention is not foosball tables, free lunches, and beanbag chairs, or half a day on Friday. Retention is determined in the interview process, which then includes the lever process. And so as you bring somebody in, if you think you got them because you made an offer that happened to come out of the jack-in-the-box acceptable, I will tell you that that does not give you a higher guarantee of retention. But if you deploy the lever concept, the lever strategy in your offer process, you are going to increase your retention on individuals who join your team. So, make your own levers up in your own company. If you're an individual, know what your levers are before you go into the interview process. Share them. It's a two-way street. Everybody wins. I'm Joe Mullings. Be well.